What's happening, my man?
Just relaxing. Just
Yeah?
trying to take a couple of days just to recover from the final. It's always like the 4th of July. You get all the way to the end, and then it's like the grand finale. Boom, 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 boom. You're like, oh my gosh, am I gonna make it through? And then you make it through, and you're like, all
So,
right.
so do you have like from now till the lottery to just kind of chill out?
Well,
Oh,
I don't have to get in a car from
Right.
now until the lottery. There will come a point where we start getting draft prospects in, and so we'll be down at the arena interviewing draft prospects. That's been different the last couple of years because of COVID. It's all been via Zoom, but I think we'll be back in the building this year. I think there will be prospects coming through, especially if the Kings get into that 3 to 1 through 5 range. I think we'll see a lot of prospects. But even still, the Kings always bring through a boatload of guys for their second round picks. So I know the year we had Kyle Guy come through like 3 times, there was 101 draft prospects brought in that year.
oh my
Jeez.
goodness.
Yeah,
Good.
so I was there like 3 days a week covering draft prospects, many of which 101. There's only 60 guys taken in the draft,
Mhm.
and most of those were for second round picks. So yeah.
What do you think happens here, Ham? More draft prospects come in or more coaching interviews are done?
Oh man, I think there's going to be a lot of both.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a pretty full slate, a full docket of head coaching candidates come into Sacramento. I think there are a lot of like no names, guys that have been around the league for a long time that are going to want to be here and fully vet the Sacramento Kings and make sure that they know what they're getting into. Because at a certain point, coaches should be leery about coming here. It's one of 30, but it's also a 2-year job for
Mhm.
most people. And so, you really have to vet it and make sure that you think that they're going to do what's right and have let you get some input and let you do what you want to do with the roster and and play the guys that you want to play and let you have the style of play which has always been in question.
So, Ham, this is one of the things that we talked about yesterday, and I'm all for an extensive, thorough search. But this is also the same league where $100 million deals are negotiated in 30 seconds, and trades are executed at the drop of a dime that have like $300 million moving between both sides. A lot of work should have already been done. I'll just say that, and a lot of conversations I feel should have been had already, and I think they have been. I don't think that the Kings um, just started looking at coaching candidates and contacting people at 11 o'clock on Monday. I think I'm right when I say, right, like they've been working back channels and letting certain people know, hey, get ready. So I say that to say, why isn't, if he's on the list, why it's coming in tomorrow for an interview?
Wait, who is that? It cut
Just
out.
Terry Stotts. I'm just saying somebody that's not, that is on the list. You can say Mark Jackson, who's on the list, who isn't associated with a team right now. Like, what are we waiting for? We should have had a conversation with their agent 3 weeks ago that this may be the case. Come in tomorrow. Let's have an interview.
Yeah, I think we're going to see that. We're going to see it quickly unfold. I think that they're going to take about a week here to really get their bearings, kind of line up what they want to do, and then we're going to start seeing guys get knocked off the list. And like I'll dispel a couple of notions here. Like first of all, like the idea that Vlade Divac's never interviewed anybody, just like that's completely false. Like the first time Vlade had an opening, he went through, I think it was 12 candidates, like I think 6 of them came through for second and third interviews, and then out of nowhere Dave Yeager became available and the Kings hired him. Again, became available on a Friday night. He was in Sacramento on a Saturday. He had a contract on Sunday, and that was after after Vlade had done all these interviews. And so when you get to the next go around, you talk about back channels. You talk about like sort of what's going to happen. We all knew that that Dave Yeager was out at the All-Star break, and we also knew that Luke Walton was out in LA, and that Luke Walton was probably going to be the head coach of the Sacramento Kings. And I know people go, well, Vlade didn't go and interview people. Yeah, he tried that once and it didn't work out so well for him. He wasn't going to do it again. He knew who his guy was. And this isn't the only team that goes out and just hires people. Chris Finch literally, like, they fired a coach, and by the end of the day, they had an assistant from another team mid-season on the job. That's how quick that happened.
I also think that's Kenny's point, though, is it's not like they did that. They fired, what was it, Ryan Saunders at noon, and then called, who was it, Toronto, and asked, like, hey, what can we talk to Chris Finch real quick? Hey, Chris, you want to interview for this job? Cool, you got it. Like, that's not how this works. Like, they had been talking, or they had at least they had gone through the proper channels with Toronto to get this process rolling before they fired Ryan Saunders, which is why I think some people in the coaching fraternity were upset about it. You interviewed a coach before you fired one.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I'll tell you, like, that's part of the problem that we have here. Like, the Kings have not, sure, we've heard names at this point, right? But they have not, out of respect for Alvin, brought in a bunch of coaching candidates, like, while he's still here. At least not that I've seen. Now, it's possible they've had plenty of conversations, but even from some of the coaching agents that I've talked to, they're like, we'll have a list for you, but it'll probably be a couple of days. And so that tells me that their process is starting, like, fresh. And that's because most of the teams that are going to be looking for a coach outside of the Lakers, most of the other teams that are out of the play, are in the playoffs. I think the Knicks will probably see them searching for a head coach, although that, we never know. That's one day they are, one day they're not. But, teams, if somehow the 76ers flame out, there's been rumors about Doc, there's been rumors about Quinn Snyder, so there are good coaches, like, playing for teams right now that could, like, good coaching spots that could come available, good coaches that could come available. But at this point, I think the Kings are kind of on their own with the Lakers. And I think
the only coach the Lakers ones are employed.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they want Mark Jackson.
Nick,
your coach, your coach.
Yeah,
yeah, and just I'll put my 2 cents in right now. Like, Mark Jackson's the wrong guy. Like, no to Mark Jackson. He's just the wrong guy.
Why?
Like, De'Aaron Fox wants, he wants someone who, like, directs traffic, that has a complex playbook, that holds people accountable. He is not looking for someone who splashes holy water on Steph Curry's ankle and makes him run around the gym and claims that he healed him. That's not what the Kings want.
The only thing, real quick, James, that I'll say about that I continue to say about Mark, he might be the wrong guy, but the fact that he's still held to that and has not gotten an opportunity, like, people learn from their mistakes all the time. I could look at De'Aaron Fox and be like, De'Aaron, after his first year in the league, he can't shoot free throws. He's never going to shoot. He can improve. Players improve, coaches improve, and they go through certain things the first time, and they say, you know what? I didn't handle this right. I learned from this. If I get another opportunity, I know how to go about it this way. I'm not sitting here saying Mark Jackson is a great coach, but the fact that he's not getting another opportunity to learn from whatever mistakes that he went through the first time, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. And we see a lot of retread, sorry coaches that get opportunity after opportunity to learn, and they don't learn, and they keep being sorry. And this guy still gets penalized for that moment and not given another opportunity.
Well, I would respond with, it wasn't one moment. It was a career of being in the league and having enough people know who you were while you were in the league. It was we hear, like, there wasn't a soul in the building that wanted him back. And, like, out of the 200 employees, no one wanted him back in Golden State. It was that Michael Malone was his lead assistant, and Vivek was there and knew that Michael Malone was doing all of the coaching. And then it's how Mark has carried himself afterwards. It's how he carries himself, the things he says in the media, the things that he says that go unchecked. There's a long, long history of it. So while I get it that some guys deserve a second shot, again, like look at, just for instance, Eric Musselman, he had a cup of tea in Golden State and a sip of coffee in Sacramento, and he's never been given another opportunity at the pro level. Look what he's done, though, in the meantime. He's gone and made himself into an incredible coach. He's led teams like UNR to the tournament. He's got the Razorbacks flying. Like, that's a guy who, like, he went out and kept doing it, kept proving that he was better than the person he was before, that made the mistakes that he was before. And I don't see that we've seen that sort of contrition or that sort of effort to recover from a guy like Mark Jackson.
I think there's maybe also less. We're not talking about X's and O's mistakes. We're not talking about rotational mistakes. We're not talking about talent evaluation mistakes. We're talking about character. I don't want to call them. I would call them character flaws. They're his characteristics, right? And it's not exclusive to Mark Jackson. And again, when you talk about growing and learning and changing, I'm all for that. I almost want to point out, Mark was like, 48 when he was the heck. It's not like he was 22.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he was 48. Like, he's kind of the man that he is. He's not alone either. Like, Bill Laimbeer is a phenomenal basketball coach. There's a reason he's not in the league. Like, he pisses a lot of people off. There are a lot of people who are like, yo, I'm not working with that dude. WNBA needs Laimbeer. You could be over there because you could get away with murder over there. That's fine. You can't get away with that in this league. And he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Again, maybe a lot like Mark Jackson. Fantastic coach. But you got to have, we talked about this with Dave Yeager a little bit. You've got to be able to have skills. You got to be a people person. You got to be able to relate. You got to be able to talk to people. And I think there's enough about the characteristics of, say, Bill Laimbeer, of Mark Jackson, that perhaps more than anyone, the owners can't get over. Because I have to imagine a general manager has at least brought up, like, what do you think about bringing Mark Jackson in? And someone, whether they call Joe Lacob or not, has just said, nah, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah. And I'll say, like, I get what you're saying. There are a lot of guys who want to be coaches in the league. A ton of guys that want to be coaches. I mean, Doug spent like 15 years, 16 years wanting to be a coach in the league. Like a guy like Olden Polynice, you can see him on social media asking for to jump in and be an assistant. And, I see you're laughing, but I'll tell you that Olden Polynice has been to one big man camp after another, to one of the coaching symposiums after another. He's worked so hard to try to get an opportunity. And I'm not saying he deserves one, because, again, you make your bed, you lay in it, right? But he's at least gone and done the work to try to get into the league. And a lot of people don't. And a lot of people think that, they were really great players, so they're going to be really great coaches. And, you have to be able to connect. And it's not like he's the only one that I would say, like, I don't think I would want, Tom Thibodeau is a director of people. He's a guy who micromanages and wears people out. And I don't think I want him anywhere near Sacramento. And he's a great coach that's, who's won at a bunch of different levels. And, I think when you mentioned Dave Yeager in Memphis, I would go do their pregame, right? And stand in the scrum. And it would be me and Ron Tillery from the Memphis newspaper. And they hated each other. Like, you could feel it when you're standing there, that they're about ready to fight at any moment between a media member and a head coach. And you're like, well, this is weird. And then when Dave got here, he was very honest. He told me to my face, hey, look, I did a lot of things wrong the first time. I'm not going to do it that way this time. I'm going to be better with the media. I'm going to try to build relationships with you guys that I did not build before. And hopefully those things help me. But either way, I need to be better, because that wasn't okay what I did there. And it wasn't okay. One of the reasons I'm not there anymore is because people, they thought of me poorly. And I need to do a better job of connecting with people. And he did. I still text Dave Yeager, all the way through his cancer stuff. I text him all the time. And, we're like a year apart, but also he has two girls that are his two girls and my two boys. They're a year apart. My oldest and his oldest are a year apart. My youngest and his youngest are a year apart. So we're people in similar life stages. And so, like, we connected, and he connected with a few other people as well. He didn't connect with everyone, but I thought that Dave Yeager coming out of Sacramento's reputation was much better than when he got to Sacramento.
Dave's pretty young. I mean,
Dave?
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, 48 years old, having coached in the NBA, starting as a head coach 2013. He still has. I think he still has some jobs to get.
Yeah. He's got to get all the way clear his stuff.
He's got to sure.
Yeah, I just read a really good article. I think the
Philadelphia Inquirer. Yeah, we were talking about it earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a tough road, man. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. I talked to him. He was always in pretty good spirits. He was I'm in a lot of pain. He said that a couple of times, and he also would say, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. He kept saying it like, it's not going to be easy, but I'll get through it. And again, he probably still needs to gain 30 pounds. So he's got a lot to go through, and especially to be a head coach, you got to be ready. You got to be ready for all of that, because it's a grind and it's brutal on you the whole season. And it's talking to the media, 75, 80, maybe more times in a year. Probably more like 100 and something, because we got all the practices and everything else. So there's just so much that goes into it, where you have to put on a specific face every time. And, so you need to be in tip-top shape if you can be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope Dave, hope he gets another opportunity. Like I said, I don't want to see his career end with that King situation. I think he's a much better coach than the result that he got in Sacramento, and I'd love to see him get another opportunity as well. He's definitely earned it. When you talk about some of the possible replacements for Alvin Gentry, I know a lot of people go straight to, defensive minded. How do you think the Kings are going to approach the coaching search? Is it going to be just defense at all costs, like a Steve Clifford, or is it going to be a guy that can relate to people, more of a people type person, or is it going to be somebody that's going to, are they going to not try and reinvent the wheel with this roster? Like, we got some good offensive players. Let's get a guy who can maximize them and maybe get them to play defense a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to look at like specifically a defensive coach, because let's be honest, that's not what Vivek wants. Vivek, the whole he doesn't want a marching band leader. He wants a jazz band leader. That's still the case. Like, the brand of basketball does
I want
matter.
a basketball coach.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah. I want a winning coach that they give the job to and then back off and supply him with the players to fit what he does and for him to create something. I thought it was really interesting. I asked Monty McNair at his press conference, like, was there a specific type of coach, or, this is the first time he's got to hire his own head coach ever, not just with the Kings, ever. This is his first go around hiring a head coach. And I thought his approach was interesting. It wasn't that he was looking for, he wants them to present stuff to him, an idea, a plan of how they'll fix the Sacramento Kings. And you can't just always say, oh, give me more defensive players. Clearly this team needs more length, and they need more shooting. They need long shooters. Every team in the league does, but this team more than anyone, just because of the other two players that they have. They're two star guys. So I think that it has to be a good marriage between the front office and a coaching staff. That's sort of, if we look back at why the Kings are so successful, it wasn't just Jeff Petrie. It wasn't just Rick Adelman. It was a combination of Jeff Petrie and Rick Adelman together. Mm-hmm. They were teammates together in the pros. They were friends, lifelong friends. They're still lifelong friends. But they had, there was no moment where Rick Adelman asked for a point guard and Jeff Petrie went out and signed Royce White, like what Pete D'Alessandro did to Michael Malone. There just wasn't that moment. They were always looking to work together. We talk about like the next man up mentality, and I think Rick Adelman is probably the best coach I've ever seen at having the next man up mentality. We didn't just see it here in Sacramento. I mean, when he went to Houston, they won 21 straight, 22 straight, and like in game 11 or 12, he lost T-Mac. In game 13, he lost Yao Ming. Chuck Hayes filled in for Yao Ming, and they kept winning. They won another 10 or 11 straight. Like his next man up mentality, what that did here in Sacramento, it was because he always had a next man to put up. When a guy like Peja goes down, he's got a Hito Turkoglu. When a Chris Webber goes down, he's got a Scott Pollard. He always had the next man, and those guys needed to elevate their games, and the other guys needed to elevate their games, but there was always the next man. Here, you can't back up the fastest point guard in the league in De'Aaron Fox with the slowest point guard in the league in Corey Joseph. And that's not fair to Corey Joseph, and it's not fair to De'Aaron Fox. It's not fair to the rest of the team. How do you do two different styles? You can't have Marvin Bagley's backup, who is one of the fastest power forwards in the league, being Nemanja Bjelica. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So next man up means a lot of different things, but you got to have this relationship between the front office and the coaching staff that works, which is one of the reasons why Luke Walton was brought back for another season, because him and Monty did hit it off, and they did feel comfortable together going into the season.
For 17 games. Suddenly, I don't feel so comfortable with you, pal. All right.
Yeah.
Man.
And Luke was wondering, hey, where's the rest of the team that I was promised?
Very well may have been.
Yeah.
Did Monty say anything that caught your attention? We air these press conferences, we listen to them, we play the sound bites, but we all kind of do it with the understanding, James, Brendan, you guys are going to ask Sean, you're going to ask good questions. He's probably not going to answer, though.
Yeah.
He's going to say a lot of words.
Yeah. He's he can dip, duck, dodge, and dodge, dip, duck, and dodge better than just about
Is that a dodgeball reference?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I got you. I got
Kenny
you.
just got hit with a wrench. You caught it. Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. Look, yeah, he needs to figure out a way in those situations to actually give something. Because, look, I cut a bunch of videos from De'Aaron Fox, a bunch of videos from Sabonis, and put all of them up on Twitter. I don't think I cut it at all from Monty. And, I thought last year his postseason, his end of the year press conference was spectacular. I thought he stood there and took ownership and said, we did not do enough. I didn't think he had that moment this time, and it is kind of interesting. It's almost like watching the State of the Union where you're waiting for that moment, someone to have the moment, and I don't think he had the moment. And so it ends up coming across as like, it was fine. He was well prepped. And, he came in there and he said the right things and avoided, the pitfalls. But at the same time, we didn't get much out of it. Like, there wasn't much for me to write on from that.
Yeah, and like Damian we talked about earlier, I don't expect him to say a whole lot of anything in those type of situations. And to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot to say. I think we're past, as people who cover the team and different Kings fans and things of that nature, we're past the talk. It's time for action. It's time for action. And you can say what you plan for and what you want to do all you want. If it's not resulting in wins, none of it matters. We had TT talking. He talked such a good game after that Minnesota game and had so much to say, resulted in nothing. So I think, in fairness to Monty McNair, there's not anything that he could have said, I don't think, that would have kind of changed people's perception. It's all about the wins and losses at this point.
Yeah, but I still think like accountability is something that when you're in that situation, you have to step up and take ownership of what's happened. You can't just act like what just happened didn't just happen. And I'm not saying he didn't act like what happened, like the team was 30-52. Like you need to take some ownership over the things that happened and say that you'll get it right. That, make a proclamation that you're going to get it right, even if there's no way to be sure that you're going to get it right. You know, they know there's a lot of work to do. They're looking to make another big aggressive play. Nothing is written in stone, but like when he gets asked specifically about Trey Lyles, I'm pleasantly surprised. Like, move on to the next question. Like it was like very basic things that like I think you get more out of James's 6 quick thoughts from the end of a game than you did out of 12 minutes, 15 minutes, and again,
And those are on
sometimes
Twitter too. He's got character limitations over there with his 6 quick thoughts.
well, but sometimes that's the best, right? So it's better than Vlade Divac going, well, I had a better deal 2 days ago.
That's very true.
Oh, like, why, Vlade? Why? Yeah. There was no takeaway soundbite that was like, oh, that's got to be out there. There just wasn't.
Yeah. And I don't think there ever has been for Monty, but he was more assertive last year, and I get why he wasn't this year, because the last time he was assertive, it bit him in the ass 17 games into the next season. So, like, maybe just shut up this time, go out there and do your work, and I'm perfectly okay with it. Yeah. I'm perfectly okay with it. We'll come back. We'll talk more about the Sacramento Kings. We'll get James Ham's thoughts on Minnesota last night and how the T-Wolves were rocking. And, of course, every Sacramento Kings fan was daydreaming about that type of atmosphere at the Golden One Center. So a lot's more ahead here as it pertains to your Kings coverage when James Ham and Dylan with KC return on Sacramento's #1 sports station, ESPN 1320. Oh, man.
How are we doing, guys?
Good, man. Great. What a duel between, sorry about this, James, Mania and Webb today. They went at it.
Yeah, Mania's pitching really well.
You said Mania. Oh.
Well, he had a no-hitter through 7 in his first start, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we had the Kershaw no-hitter through 7 today, and then they pulled him with 80 pitches.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, the A's have actually been fun to watch. The fact that they're 2-3. I mean, at least they've been fun to watch. I don't expect that to hold up at all. I mean, you always look for things that are sustainable and things that aren't. Like, so when I'm watching the Kings game and I'm like, oh man, they got a nice 8-point lead, but they've hit 12 of 18 from 3 in the first half. That's not going to continue. So you're always looking for those things. And like with the A's, like there's so many of them. It's like Elvis Andrus isn't going to bat 220, let alone 330 or something. He's got a home run. I'm not sure if he hit one last year.
Saw the Giants won a close one.
Yeah.
Right.
Sweat, boy. My boy Duvall. Woo. Made it tough down there at the end, but he pulled it out. That's what I'm talking about, baby.
When was the game where was it Duvall who had the bunt late in the game that angered everyone?
Dubon.
What was that?
Mauricio Dubon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know who it was. Yeah.
No.
I love baseball. My bar is filled with baseball picks.
Yeah,
and other stuff.
As soon as the coach is hired, it's James Ham or 1320 Baseball Insider.
Yeah.
We're going to start calling you Buster Ham.
You're going to get this James Ham right here.
There we go. Oh, Captain Awesome. All right.
James Ham on a boat. That's what you're going to get.
I still like Fedora Ham. I like New Orleans ham.
Yeah, you can hit me. I'll be out on the boat, and we'll do some of these from the boat. There, how about that? Floating along.
Yeah, we're going to Ham's house for the summer for sure.
Yep, that's right. Oh, everyone's fighting over the Mark Jackson stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bryce. We talked about her a couple hours ago, buddy. I'm sorry. I know you got a job, so it's okay. But we did. You could rewind. We got you. Bryce, we got you. We did that. We did it earlier. I promise. It's in there. Download the podcast. No, that's too much, Russ. You're gonna kill Kenny.
No.
You're gonna kill Kenny.
No. They play every day, bro.
I think the A's game.
Well, you guys are really going. You guys are really going at it about Mark Jackson. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
I get it. It's that. I get it.
Yeah, but I mean, how long has it been since he's been a coach in the league? And that was his only real opportunity.
8 years?
there's
7 years?
Yeah, I
Two
mean,
to
whatever.
14?
What's the Warriors' first championship?
15? So his last year was 2013, 2014. Championship was 2014, 2015.
Okay. Yep. So that's a long time.
It is.
You know, the league's changed a lot. He's had opportunities. He's put his name
But it's not
out
like
there
he
for other
hasn't been
opportunities.
around. I mean, I'm not trying to stall him out, but it's not like he's been around.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's calling the biggest game of the week every week.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he's in the game for sure.
He's John Gruden, essentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that, and I mean, I think you can say the same about Jeff Van Gundy. Jeff Van Gundy just kind of
that's done.
disappeared early.
Yeah. And I look like Van Gundy's record is really good. Like,
He's a really good coach.
I mean, he's significantly better than John Gruden. When they brought John Gruden back, it was like, this is dumb. Jeff Van Gundy's he has he's a really good coach.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's willing to get out there and fight for your guys, even if it's hanging from someone's ankle. Yeah. I mean, he's fiery. I think
We're
they
coming
want
back.
someone.
Hang on. We're coming back. The chat continues to discuss amicably, because that's what the chat house does, over on twitch.tv/ESPN1320 and youtube.com/ESPN1320. We're on Facebook Live as well. You can interact with the show on any one of those streams, discussing Mark Jackson. And Mark Jackson being out of the league, the last 7 or 8 years or whatever it's been, and then the conversation shifted to Jeff Van Gundy. Jeff Van Gundy was a really good coach, had a long multiple stretches of being a really, really good basketball coach. But again, I think he's been, even though he's been around the game, I think he's been away from the game for a really long time. I don't see a situation where, Jeff Van Gundy comes back. I thought, maybe the hot trend after the John Gruden hiring was, okay, we're going to hire the analyst on the A shows. I guess maybe Jeff Van Gundy is coming back. And the fact that he hasn't yet, the fact that Stan Van got a job before Jeff Van did, man, I think that's probably Jeff probably would take the perfect job if it was offered to him, but I don't think he's taking any job that's offered to him.
Yeah, his name hasn't even been out there for a while. I mean, we had heard rumors at one point that there was possibility for him to go back to the Rockets, and then it fell apart, and then he didn't. And so, yeah, he's always been one of those guys that you think, man, he's a great communicator. He was a guy who really had his team play hard each and every night. I think he'd be a great coach, but at the same time, he hasn't been in the league for a long time. And the league has changed. And I know as a guy who sits there and watches it every day, he knows the changes that have been made. And he easily could pick up a lot of the nuances of what's happening. He is an old school basketball coach, so and I just don't see him coming back out of retirement, especially not for a job like the Kings. And a Stan Van Gundy's the guy who left the Kings at the altar at a Kinko's.
Kinko's, he left him at the Kinko's. Yeah,
Yeah,
Kinko's in the
Kinko's.
Kinko's.
That was
his wife.
It was okay. I didn't know if it was the one downtown off of J Street or
if you're. It wasn't then, but it's right next to Chipotle. That is the I believe they're called FedEx places now. FedEx Kinko's, I think, is what they're called. That's the Stan Van Gundy Kinko's right
I might have to go to that one.
They should put a sign out.
Yeah, I might have to go there and take a picture of that. Hey.
Stan Van was here. I think they should do that.
He told us one time in a scrum that is the most embarrassing thing that he did during his entire career. It's the one regret that he has, that he handled it poorly, that he was disrespectful, that he should not have done it that way, and that he's apologized. I think to the Kings brass for what happened, but it was a regrettable situation that he should have handled better.
Refresh my memory. Okay, I love that. He wishes he had handled it better. He still would have taken the Orlando job, but he wishes he had handled it better. Was that the post Adelman hiring that turned into Musselman? Like where was he again?
That was probably 2008 or 2009. It wasn't the 2010 season. Well, let's see. I think 09, 010 is Westfall, and then 010, 11 is Westfall, and then start of 11, 12 is Westfall. So it was probably before Westfall. And Westfall, again, Westfall is a guy, let's just for comparisons. Westfall is a guy that coached the Suns. Then he got a Supersonics team where he showed up on day one, and Vin Baker came into camp something like 80 pounds overweight and with a major alcohol problem, which, again, that was a rough go. And so he didn't get an opportunity for a long time. And again, a religious guy that, huge religious. Paul was very religious. And so it took him a long time to get back in the league. And when he did with the Kings, it was I think it was the lowest money in the league. I think he made like $1.75 million a year. It was the lowest dollar head coaching job in the league at the time. And the Maloofs really didn't have any money. And that's why he was able to get that job. But I do think that there is a certain amount of, again, the league is what it is. The players are going to do what they're going to do. And sometimes having someone who is heavily religious as your leader, maybe isn't exactly what some of the players are looking for. Mm-hmm. And there's some guys that love that, but there are also, I think, some people who don't like being judged for what they do as NBA players.
Wow.
Unless I'm reading this wrong, Van Gundy turned into Reggie Theus.
Yeah. Okay.
Hang time. Y'all know about hang time.
Reggie.
Literally
Theus.
Everybody knows hang time. What do you mean? That wasn't
You know hang time?
I know hang time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this: who was the first coach on hang time?
I
stumped it, boy.
Is it Mark something? No.
It was Dick Butkus.
Oh, wow.
The first season, Dick Butkus was the head coach, and then Reggie Theus came.
Interesting.
That was a pretty good show.
Yes, but did you know that Dick Butkus was the special referee at the Wrestler NFL Battle Royal in Chicago at WrestleMania 2?
Did you know that Liberace sang during the first WrestleMania?
I did know that.
What in the world?
James, did you know any of this?
No.
Did you know Floyd Mayweather once knocked out the Big Show? Did you know Shaquille O'Neal competed in a WWE Battle Royal?
I think I did know that. And I remember Dennis Rodman, and I remember Karl Malone.
Yep, that was WCW. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mark Curry is hanging with Mr. Cooper. Thank you.
Oh, that's
what I was
there
thinking.
You go.
Mark
I was
Curry.
like, who's Mark? What do you? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Hanging with Mr. Cooper. My bad.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Which he tried out. He tried out for the Warriors, right?
He did.
Yeah. That whole show was based in Oakland.
Yeah. I saw the episode where he tried out for the Warriors on the show. I think he tried out for them in real life too.
Yeah,
I think a really good basketball player is Dwayne Martin. Tried out for the Knicks.
Mm-hmm. Dwayne Martin makes an appearance on Bel Air.
He does.
Dwayne Martin makes it. There's like there's a handful of recognizable actors in later episodes of Bel Air, and Dwayne Martin is one of them.
I tried to get a little caught up on it the other night. I fell asleep. No, nothing towards Bel Air. I was exhausted.
Brian McKnight was really good. There've been a couple of athletes that have been good ball players. I don't think Master P was ever really good, but he was just loud about playing basketball.
Cameron
and he put his money out there too, didn't he?
Yeah.
He owned like a minor
CBA
league
team, I think. Yeah, CBA.
Yeah.
At the time. So yeah. Last night
coached the Kings
in Minnesota, the Timberwolves won championship for the franchise. The parade will be going on.
Tears were shed.
Rings were made.
The Mall of America exploded.
Now we can laugh at this because James, we all know what would happen here in Sacramento in the same situation, and it would be 10 times what we saw in Minnesota last night. Correct?
Oh yeah, it would be absolute bedlam, absolute craziness. People crying in the streets.
Yep.
People I mean, it would be nuts, and that would
It still
just
be
be
going
for
on right now.
yeah, it would still be going on. It would be like Mardi Gras at it would be spectacular. No, and you know what? Kings fans deserve it so much. I mean, you've been through so much, and at some point, you gotta do something to win. I did think it was interesting. McNair did say like he wasn't going to do what your thought was put everything in for
He
next
was
season.
listening to D'Lo and KC. He's like, I'm gonna shut this Kenny Caraway thing down.
Yeah,
He
Kenny
need to
is
calm down.
wrong, and I'm not going to do that. That's what he said. Like,
Well, look, you better win. You better win.
he's like,
'Cause if
I'm
not-
reading between the lines, Kenny.
and look,
Oh, there it is, Kenny. That's what he was doing to Kenny. I'm not doing it, Kenny.
and I'll tell Monty this: you better win, else I got a Zillow app for you.
Oh, there you
Zillow on
go.
the Redfin. Get familiar with them.
Yeah, I know.
If you don't get, if this thing turns to 17, get Zillow up on your phone. Truly,
I thought that was that's how I introed the Alvin Gentry. It was my lead. Head coaches in Sacramento. They rent. They don't buy. Yeah, because unless you like investment properties in California, which is probably done really well. But yeah, it's not a place that you should buy. Yeah, and look, I love that Minnesota had that moment, and they had adversity. Like I was watching Karl Anthony Towns, like he was beside himself. He didn't even know what to do coming off the court with like 2:40 left in the first half with 4 fouls. Like he wanted to, like, if there was a baby to be punched, he wanted to punch a baby. He was like wandering around like looking for something, like he was so angry. Yeah, and then to survive, like, hey, it's fun, and for Pat Bev to beat his former team, like I'm here for it. I love it. I would love to see Kings fans actually get that for themselves.
Yeah.
one of these
Still
days.
funny. It's
One
still
of-
funny.
No, that's what we talked about. Like, yes, we would be doing so much more, myself included, Chris Bosh, all throughout J Street, Chris Bosh. Okay. Absolutely. But it was still funny to watch them get up on the scores.
I just got to be honest. I don't think I'd cry though. Like that's just the one that Pat Bev like he really like I love Pat Bev's emotion, his intensity. Like okay, like I got it. That's what my man was shedding tears over this moment. It was like all right, like cool. Like Pat Bev, you've been to the playoffs before. Like
in the playoffs last year.
It's not like this is the first time you've been to the playoffs in like a 19-year career.
So also, it's not like you had 30 to will him to this moment. You had 7.
Yeah. I think I'll be out in front of the arena selling, like it'll just have a number 8 on it. Just like, we're the 8 seed. We're the 8 seed. We're number 8. We're number 8.
Hey,
like,
take it.
Oh,
I know they'll sell like hotcakes. Like, people will freak out. Yes, we got the 8. We finally are there. Like,
See,
all right.
but if you're the 8, that actually means you won 2 games, doesn't it?
No, because I think
One
Minnesota is the
lost-
8 now,
you
right?
lost one and
No.
you won one. Minnesota's
No.
7.
But,
Oh, no,
so you
Minnesota's
lost one and you
7.
won. Yeah, Minnesota's the 7. So okay, you lost one and you won one. That means you lost the first. So that's exactly what we would do. We would celebrate losing one playing game, but winning the second one to get James Ham's number 8 T-shirt.
That's right.
Coming to the kingsbeat.com next season, hopefully. The
We're
playing
number 8.
number 8.
Yeah, I mean, it's much better than the number 12 shirt I could sell right now.
Well, the good thing about the number 8 is it could be old in a year. The good thing about the number 12 is it seems to last forever.
Yeah.
Like you can wear it every single year when the season's over.
Yeah, that ain't never going out of style.
I've got
Yeah.
T-shirt ideas all over the place now, so I'm gonna reach out to my guy right when we're done here. Me and Brickhouse we're gonna come up with some cool lottery ball shirts and stuff.
Well, there you go. That's a good one right there. A King's lottery ball shirt because, well, I mean the lottery's probably a month away. Like you're locking in on coaching interviews and kind of following those stories. Like you're you're really not going to get a ton of off time when you can consider you got a coaching search here. Then depending on how the lottery goes, you got that coming up about, a month and some change from now. Then you'll have the draft, then free agency, and then the California Classic might or might not be here. Then you'll have Summer League. And then before you know it, James Ham vacation is over.
Yeah, so the way that the offseason works, really, I usually take like the week off after the season. And in the past, like when I had to go cover all of the playoffs, all the Warriors playoffs, I would take off the first round to kind of give myself a moment to catch my breath. But it doesn't happen. Realistically, I'll steal a couple of days here and there, but you don't really get any time off until August. Maybe the third week of July, you can start to ramp down a little bit and take a little bit of time in August. But then, media days, usually around September 25th, you got to start gearing up for roster changes, the late ads. You'll start getting some players here and there to have conversations. And then we start seeing the ramp up to the season. And so, yeah, there's a small window, but the window isn't now. And it doesn't matter that the season ends around April 15th every year. I'm not someone that gets time to go do my taxes real quick.
So what is next for the Kings right now? Is it literally just the coach search, or is there like, I'm trying to think in my head of what else could be going on, but just the coach is being interviewed and that's really about it. Do you not get players like potential draftees coming in until after you know where you're at in the lottery?
No, you'll get some bleeding in before that. What is the lottery date? I haven't even looked it up yet. It's
Somewhere
probably
mid-May because it's during the conference finals. So
yeah, it's going to be mid-May. So yeah, we'll probably start getting some like the week or two before, but we'll get 6-man workouts. They'll do 3-on-3, and it's usually a big man, a wing, and a guard. And they're mostly guys that are considered second-round picks. And then we'll get to a point where where the Kings are in the draft, and we'll start seeing some of those guys filter in, some of the bigger names. And it depends, maybe you're just looking at guys that are, 6 through 12 or 15, because, I think this team is, in all honesty, I think that they're going to trade the pick unless it's in the top 3, or they'll at least try, they'll at least listen. They do need young players, though. I mean, this team is not young out of nowhere, and, they have 2 young guys, 3 young guys, but that's not enough. I mean, this team does have like an age issue out of nowhere, and they're not old, but bringing in a young player or 2 young players that have a shot to make the roster is actually a good thing for this team. So I could see them, you could maybe package for Rashawn Holmes, and if you have like the 7 and move back into the teens, but get a really, really good player and maybe their pick, so sort of go backwards a little bit. You can go up. I don't know how much you can go up in this draft, though. I think anyone who lands in the top 3 is going to stay in the top 3 because they believe that those 3 are if not all-star level players, plus rotational players, plus starters for a long time. And then when you get from 4 to 10, there's a bunch of question marks. It's a bunch of high ceiling, low floor players that you hope will work out, but it's a lot of gambling.
Draft lottery May 17th, 34 days, 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 1 second. Right now.
How did you get there's a site dedicated to the countdown?
I definitely guessed it.
Well, I'm just saying,
looking at Tankathon. I'm looking at Tankathon.
What Tankathon? Who's got the countdown to the
Kings have a 32% chance of getting into the top 4 and a 7.5% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah. I mean, their odds are they're solid. I mean,
you imagine if the Pacers get the number 1 pick, how this whole city would just lose their mind.
Well,
they did it right.
Traded it.
They know how to do things.
Yeah, and then they'll trade for Russ, and everyone will go, "Oh, all right." Maybe they won't.
That
Maybe they
was
won't.
not. Well, I don't even know why that had to be mentioned. Like,
Well, because that's out there. That's out there that they
it
might
is out
trade
there. That's a weird one.
Russ.
Yeah, that doesn't. That's a weird
Yeah.
one. Charlotte, I almost understand. Jordan, like, yeah, dude, whatever. Let's do it. Pacers, what? Wait, how are you gonna do that?
Well, once again, they do it right.
The Pacers do it right.
They do it right.
Oh yeah, let's pair Russell Westbrook and Tyrese Halliburton and see how people react to that. Let's go ahead and do that.
Halliburton finished the season at 8.2 assists per game. He's in the top 5.
Damn,
I was totally shocked by that. That's really
He
good.
had monster assist numbers.
especially
like-
when he got to Indiana.
Yeah. Well, he did
It
here
felt like
too
he was
for-
finishing every night with 12, 13, 14, 15 assists.
Yeah. No, he did really well. Yeah. I mean, he's going to be a good player. He's going to be a really good player. So whether he can be great or not, we'll see. But he's going to be a really good player.
James, you got any interest in the playing?
Like in covering it.
Yeah, like the games that have had. Well, obviously we had 2 last night, but tonight, any of the games and then
Winner go home.
Yeah, I'll watch, but I'm not really, because especially the Western Conference teams, those teams are horrible. Like the teams that made the play-in, they beat the Kings by 2 or 3 games, and I mean this was a horrible Sacramento Kings season. Like they're not good. The fact that the play-in is kind of a shame. It's like they just keep like trying to move as opposed to moving the goalpost backwards, they keep trying to pull it up further for the Kings, and the Kings still can't hit it. It's like, oh man, why are your uprights on like the 7-yard line now?
They can't keep
Like-
in their lives. I
Yeah,
think
no, it's
Spurs
bad.
is the only like horrible team. I don't think the Pelicans are horrible. Like I don't. Brandon Ingram's good. CJ McCollum is good. Herb Jones, I like watching him. Valanciunas. I don't think they're winning in the playoffs, but I don't think they're a horrible team. Clippers, Paul George, that's good. That's fun. They're good. They're a solid team. Minnesota's a solid team. I think all of the East is pretty solid. So I think the Spurs are the outlier here. That's the team that they can go home tonight.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking about 32, 33, 34, 35 win teams. I mean, these are bad teams in any other year. I mean, even like think about this, a Jaeger year, right? The Kings finished with 39 wins. First of all, that would have made them what, like a 6 seed?
No, they
the
would have
ninth?
been the 9th seed.
Okay. But even still,
because the Clippers had 42 wins.
they missed the playoffs by 8 games. The
Yeah.
playoffs by 8 games that year.
Yeah.
So the 8 seed, not the 10 seed, the 8 seed was way up there, like 47 wins. I mean, this is just a really, really bad season. And I remember telling you guys in the beginning, all of the teams around the Kings, no one did anything spectacular. Nobody did anything that would like turn your head and go, oh, that's going to make them spectacular.
Right.
The Pelicans, again, they didn't have enough shooting. They went into the season without enough shooting. They got CJ at the deadline. They're still looking for 3 more shooters. And that's why they're not a 45-win team. So I'd say, like, if you're at 500, I'm okay saying that you're a pretty decent team. If you win 45 to 48 teams, you're a good team. You deserve to be in the playoffs. And that's not what, like, all of these teams are. And,
Well,
good for
Kings
them
beat-
fighting it out.
They're not
The
in
Kings,
to be fair.
the Kingsbeat.com, Kingsbeat podcast, available wherever you get your podcast